think I'm live. Hi, my name is Tyriece Simon, riding solo here, and this is MMA Renegade episode 6. Recap this is part one, episode 6, recapping Bellator 259 that happened this past Friday. Normally I am here with my co-host Elijah Jones. Elijah is it's his birthday week, so shout out again, Elijah, for your birthday. Happy birthday, man. And 2, he just finished his last test of this semester, so we'll see what happens here. So, man, Elijah's out there celebrating. He's gonna have a good time tonight. I told him, you know what? I got you, man. I got you. Me in the chat, or me and the viewers, we'll discuss Bellator 259 and UFC later on today. So don't worry, man. Enjoy your day. So I hope he's enjoying himself, and we'll be back to business. I think June, the first week of June. I think next week there is no UFC card or Bellator card going on. So we will take a week off, and then we'll be back to business. Or maybe we'll have something planned. Who knows? We'll keep you guys posted. But yeah. So it's gonna be me here solo. I'm gonna recap Bellator 259 that happened again this past Friday, and we're also going to talk about some other things as well regarding that card. Friend of the show, Sean Felton's fight as well, which I thought, I'll save it. We'll talk about it. But before we get into the show, I want to say if you're viewing this video, or if you're watching this on VOD, please let me know what you think of the show. Let me know what you think of your Bellator 259. Share, like, subscribe. We greatly appreciate it. We love the growth of this channel so far, and we want to keep growing. Hopefully, maybe we'll get to, we're aiming, hopefully, 100 subscribers by the end of this year. So that's the goal. Get to 100, and if we could pass that, that'd be even greater. But yeah, we greatly appreciate it, and please let us know what you think about 259. All right, so. Last night, I'm gonna take a little bit of Elijah's. Last night, we seen Chris Cyborg, the featherweight champion of Bellator, take on Leslie Smith in the main event. Now, one of the things that me and Elijah talked about in the past was, and when Chris Cyborg going to Bellator, was who was Chris Cyborg going to face in Bellator, right? The best matchup that she could have right now in the world of MMA would be Amanda Nunes. The UFC and Chris Cyborg couldn't come to terms. There was a weird back and forth between Dana White and Chris Cyborg's management, and Chris Cyborg herself. And then Chris Cyborg said, "You know what? I'm going to Bellator. I'm going to go over there, and I'm going to be the standout in that featherweight division," which she has. She has, I think, how many wins has Chris Cyborg had in Bellator so far? Let me look it up while I'm here. One of the advantages of doing this solo, I can look up things live. Mixed martial arts. Right, so she has beaten Julia Budd, forgot that, to win the featherweight title. Then she beat Iran. I'm going to say this right. A lot of you said with the names. Arani Bianco by rear naked choke at Bellator 249, and she defeated Leslie Smith by TKO in the 5th round to defend her belt for the 2nd time. All right, so she's beat Julia Budd, Irene Blenko, and now Leslie Smith. And so, it's a 2-parter, right? So, one, Cyborg, I had Cyborg winning before the fight happened. I think Elijah probably would agree with me as well. Just because of just who Cyborg is, and looking at Leslie Smith. And one of the things that stood out to me, even before watching the fight, I kind of had an idea, but watching the fight, you get a clear idea of how much of a difference Cyborg is compared to other fighters, other female fighters in her division. There's such a difference in skill, there's such a difference in power, there's such a difference in just aura that Cyborg has that nobody in the featherweight division in the Bellator really has right now. And even for that matter, nobody in the UFC really has either, right? When Chris Cyborg was in the UFC, the only person that really matches that was Amanda Nunes. And we see what happened there. But besides that, Chris Cyborg is if Amanda Nunes is number one, Chris Cyborg is number two best female pound for pound fighter in the world right now. And she showed that last night. She showed that last night. When the fight started, you could see the clear difference in power. When and Leslie Smith, to her credit, Leslie Smith, we're going to talk about in a second. Leslie Smith is tough. She is very tough. She stuck it out for 5 rounds. She even landed on Chris Cyborg a bit. But when you see the difference in power between when Leslie Smith hit Cyborg, and that seemed like it didn't have that much of effect, and then when Chris Cyborg lands a straight on Leslie Smith for a jab, or she dropped her a couple of times in the first round too, but just a jab alone, it sent Leslie Smith back a little bit. Like it staggered Leslie Smith, and that just goes to show you the clear difference in just talent, skill, physique that Chris Cyborg has compared to her opponents. She is. If it wasn't for Amanda, she'll be the greatest female fighter in the world right now. But that still belongs to Amanda, who's the greatest female fighter of all time in the MMA. And yeah, Chris Cyborg was able to drop Leslie Smith in the first round. She had her way with her. She was back suplexed her in the first round as well, and that seemed to repeat itself throughout the course of the fight. Even the little things, right? So one of the things about Chris Cyborg was that she could just go in there, and because of her power, she would just bum rush ladies and try to take them out. And Chris Cyborg, a lot more patient, a lot more reserved, mixes it up, not just trying to strike with you, but also trying to grapple, which he did in this fight. And then the gas tank Chris Cyborg, where you would say maybe if she's expending all this energy, that maybe in the later rounds she may have a chance, but not this Chris Cyborg. This Chris Cyborg is mature. This Chris Cyborg is calculated. This Chris Cyborg has been fighting for a long time and has faced the who's who in women's MMA. And she has an understanding of just controlling herself and controlling her gas tank and being able to go 5 rounds, to where that's not even a question anymore. Chris Cyborg goes 5 rounds. She could go 5 rounds. It's whether you can withstand for 5 rounds. And Leslie Smith, to her credit, she tried her best to go to make this a fight and to create scenarios in which she could win. But Chris Cyborg was just too much, just too much. She dropped her in the first. I believe she dropped her in the third, or the fourth, and then she dropped her again in the fifth. But you just see the clear difference in the strikes, where every time where Leslie Smith would land something or do something, Chris Cyborg will respond back, and her power shots, her jabs, her hooks, all those would just stun Leslie Smith. But I think even in the second round, Leslie Smith was even coming in, and she landed a couple of shots, and it just took one hook from Cyborg to send her back and to stop all the pressure that Leslie Smith was trying to give, or all the advancement that Leslie Smith was trying. It stopped Leslie Smith right in her tracks. And yeah, Leslie Smith, the fight ended with Leslie Smith, the accumulation of round after round after round of just punishment, of being sent back on her feet, from being dropped 3 times in the fight to being suplexed multiple times in the fight, to be taken down to the ground, the smothering, all of that just accumulated to a TKO win, where Leslie Smith gets dropped again, I believe from a right hand of Chris Cyborg. And at that point, Chris Cyborg just pounced on her, even was going to let her up, and then went back and took her way out. I mean, finished her with a TKO by referee stoppage. And yeah, Leslie Smith loses to Chris Cyborg. Chris Cyborg is now, I believe, 3-0 in Bellator. Who's next for her? We'll get to that in a second, but going back to Leslie Smith, one of the things that's commendable is how tough Leslie Smith is. To be able to take those shots from Chris Cyborg, to be able to be dropped multiple times in that fight and to want to keep going, it goes to show you the heart and the toughness of Leslie Smith. But the reason why the title of the episode It's called When Do You Throw in the Towel? It's because that's my question to you, the viewers, you, the people that's watching. When is it time to throw in the towel? Right? If you're her corner and you're looking at Leslie Smith taking all this damage, we're going from round one. Okay, round one, Leslie Smith gets dropped. She gets suplexed, back suplexed. She's get completely dominated, right? Then we go to round two. Seems like it's a little bit about the same, but Cyborg relents a little bit more. Round three, it picks up again where Chris Cyborg hurts her. Round four, she gets dropped again, and we're talking about accumulation of just taking punishment after punishment after punishment after punishment. And it seems like your fighter that you're cornering has no chance, or little to no chance of stopping Chris Cyborg, especially with Chris Cyborg, where again the gas tank is not an issue, the recklessness is not an issue. Like she's reserved, she's picking apart Leslie Smith. At what point do you throw in the towel? Because we're like that fight realistically. And this is just my opinion, and you guys could share your opinion in the comment section. But I like it was at no point did I see Leslie Smith squeaking out a victory. At no point was she winning on the scorecards. At no point did she deal any type of damage that was significant to the damage that she was taking. At no point on the ground did I feel like she had Cyborg in trouble. There was virtually nothing Leslie Smith could have done in that fight. And that's unfortunate to say because Leslie Smith is talented and she is a tough fighter. But at the end of the day, Chris Cyborg, she is the number 2 best female fighter in the world. And the accumulation of damage that Leslie Smith was taking was almost unnecessary to a degree, because in round 3, when you're down, and we've seen Leslie Smith get touched up and hurt and stumbled and get dominated. At what point do you say, okay, maybe we got to throw in the towel to save this fighter for another day, to save the abuse, the accumulation of damage for another day, which doesn't have long-term ramifications. Because that 5th round wasn't really necessary. We've seen what the fight was leading to. We've seen Chris Cyborg dominate for 4 rounds. We've seen Chris Cyborg drop Leslie Smith. We've seen Chris Cyborg handle on the ground. We've seen Chris Cyborg on the ground, even in grappling, control Leslie Smith. We've seen Leslie Smith try to do her best. You see, she tried to land on Cyborg and try to dish out her own punishment to Cyborg, and it just had no effect compared to what she was receiving. So in the 5th round, before the TKO stoppage, before Leslie Smith gets dropped again in the 5th round, was there a thought in their mind to throw in a towel and save Leslie Smith from herself? Because Leslie Smith's not gonna quit. She's not gonna want to stop. She's tough. She is toughness personified for going 5 rounds with Chris Cyborg and taking the amount of punishment that she did. But at one point, does the cornerman step in and protect the fighter and say, okay, enough. We're not going to allow you to take any more damage. We're not going to allow you to suffer anymore. It was honestly, it was brutal to see. Like I watched this on DVR because I was out last night, and so I watched it before doing the show. That's why it's still fresh in my mind. And I was just almost. I'm not dumbfounded, because I'd expect MMA cornermen to, work with their fighter and the fighter not wanting to quit on the stool or anything like that. But boxing does it. Boxing, even though the fighters, they don't want to quit on the stool, the cornerman will step in and save the fighters from himself. I think that needs to be more in MMA, where the fighters are taken care of or protected from themselves by the cornerman. Because last night was an absolute bludgeoning. Last night, that fight didn't need to go 5 rounds. It didn't need to go where it did. And hopefully Leslie Smith is okay. Hopefully Leslie Smith, she's not hurt too bad, or who knows when her next fight will be this year. If maybe she may take the year off. But man, I as soon as the second or third round happened, I was like, okay, this fight can be stopped. It didn't need to go that long. So credit to Leslie Smith toughness, but again, I raised the question to you guys: at what point in an MMA fight do you say, okay, the fight should probably be called here, or somebody should step in and stop this from happening? Or, yeah, that's my take on Leslie Smith. And tough fighter. For Cyborg though, I honestly don't know where she goes from here. I think maybe a Kat Zingano fight. I believe Kat Zingano is ranked number 4 in the new Bellator ranking system that they have. No, she's ranked number 3. She's ranked number 3. So you have Leslie Smith ranked number 4, Kat Zingano is ranked number 3, Arlene Blencowe is ranked number 2, and then Julia Budd is ranked number 1. Which Chris Cyborg beat Julia Budd for the title, beat Arlene Blencowe, beat Leslie, who's ranked number 4, and now she has Kat Zingano probably next, who defeated Olivia Parker. And again, for Chris Cyborg, man, I honestly don't know. Okay, if she beats Kat Zingano, what's next? If she beats Kat Zingano, what's next? Right? I don't want to just rule Kat Zingano out, but if I was to put my money down and say, okay, who would win off the top of my head, I would probably lean more towards Chris Cyborg, just because I think the striking of Chris Cyborg, and I think the grappling of Chris Cyborg will be able to match Kat Zingano's. But you know, where does Chris Cyborg go from here? Even if Kat Zingano is next, you know, it's like that the featherweight division for Bellator, you know, they have a very good flyweight division. Like that featherweight division for Bellator with Cyborg at the top, it is tough, man. It really is tough. There's not really, you can't really say a credible challenger that you can bank on to like pose a threat to Cyborg right now. That's me being honest. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe you know, there is somebody in this ranking that, you know, can give Cyborg some problems, but I doubt Kat Zingano can. And that's not just credit Kat Zingano. It's not to discredit any of these females that are on this ranking system, but Cyborg is on a completely different level. And maybe Kayla Harrison may entertain going to Bellator. She fought at 145 at one point. She's 155, or she fought at 145. Maybe they signed Kayla Harrison, and that's a super fight. But you know, again, how many, like, the competition level for Cyborg is so like small in terms of who can actually give her a matchup, and the only person that I think can give her a problem is the 145, 135 champion in the UFC, in Amanda Nunes. Like, that's the only mega fight. That's the only big competitive fight that I think fans would really love to see, is Amanda Nunes versus Chris Cyborg rematch. You know, because Amanda Nunes knocked out Chris Cyborg. That launched Amanda Nunes to a new atmosphere. You know, being not only the greatest female fighter of all time, but also being a superstar. All right. So what would happen in a rematch where Amanda Nunes has gotten way better than what she was, more confidence, solidified herself as the greatest, versus what would be the number 2 female fighter in MMA right now, in Chris Cyborg? Like, what would happen there? You know, so I think that's the only fight that I see, like, that is not entertaining, but it gets you to want to invest, and it matters, right? Because you can see a threat in Kat Zingano. I mean, for Chris Cyborg, and you can also see a threat for Amanda Nunes. Like, either one of them can lose on a given day against each other, right? So who will win in a rematch? Like, that's compelling. I don't know what is compelling, at least right now, early on in this featherweight division for Chris Cyborg. Again, she'll probably face Kat Zingano next, but besides that, Bellator probably wants to throw all the money they can against Kayla Harrison. If not, Kayla Harrison probably gonna go to the UFC, or maybe she may even stay at PFL and just keep collecting that mill. But man, I don't know. Chris Cyborg and Bellator, it's a. I think Bellator and Chris Cyborg go hand in hand. I think Bellator treats her well and treats her as a star that she is, and rightfully so. But man, I would love to see Chris Cyborg versus Amanda Nunes again. I really would. Yeah, that was pretty much it. It was a dominant fight for Chris Cyborg. Leslie Smith again is tough, but it's Chris Cyborg just on a whole nother level. Other fights on the card I thought was interesting. Leandro Higo defeated Darren Caldwell by split decision. I think they got it right. I thought Leandro Higo just did a lot more than Darren Caldwell did. Darren Caldwell, I believe, is now on a 2-fight losing streak. I believe he lost to Hugo, but I think he also lost to AJ McKee by neck crank. So it's interesting to see where he goes from there. Also on the card, let me see. I'm looking at any fights that stuck out to me. Oh, I'll save the next fight. Austin Vanderford versus Fabian Edwards in a second. But the other thing that of course happened on this card was friend of the show, friend of the channel. Somebody I've got to know and somebody I've interviewed, which it's done pretty well. Sorry, I'm sweating because it's super hot in this house. And the people downstairs turn the heater on. It is super hot outside. It's like 90 degrees outside. But the other fight on this card that was prominent on this channel was the debut of for Bellator, Sean Felton Jr., Sean Superfly Felton Jr., who was fighting on this card, who I've interviewed, and he was fighting Aviv Gonzalez. And one of the things that I don't know if, and I had to edit some parts of the interview out, but one of the fights that one of the things I talked about in the thing, you probably can hear some noise in the background. Sorry. But one of the things I talked about was the ring rust and the grappling of Gonzalez. Was the grappling of Gonzalez and the ring rust of Sean Felton? Remember, Sean Felton hasn't fought since 2019, late 2019, in a split draw, I believe. And that was his last fight. And he was coming in, to fight Aviv Gonzalez, who was this guy that Bellator is pushing as a jiu-jitsu ace, that is somebody that's as a legit prospect in this division and for Bellator, the lightweight division for Bellator. And he said in an interview, he said that he saved some of his opinions on just what he's going to do in the fight, what his game plan was, but he did say that he thought that Aviv Gonzalez has faced some guys that were just easy pickings. And in this fight, Aviv Gonzalez showed that he was the real deal. He came out strong. As an understatement, he pressured Sean Felton. Sean Felton, I think for a year off, more than a year off, I thought he did pretty well, and I think it was some bright moments for him. He got off the ground with Aviv Gonzalez. He was able to get up off his feet. He tried stuffing the takedowns of Aviv Gonzalez. I thought if the fight stood up a little bit more, I thought that Sean Felton was able to would probably be able to give Aviv Gonzalez some problems in terms of just striking and have to deal with the range and the height disadvantage that Sean Felton would give Aviv Gonzalez. But ultimately, Aviv Gonzalez was able to pull guard and get Sean Felton in the heel hook, and the fight was over from there. Aviv Gonzalez is a legit prospect that I think people should take notice of, and I think this fight was not an easy fight for Aviv Gonzalez. In terms of matchup, what I thought, Sean Felton, again, somebody that is rangy, somebody that can grapple. Maybe the time off kind of affected it. I would love to hear his thoughts on that, but I thought he was definitely an interesting matchup for Aviv Gonzalez, and Aviv Gonzalez was able to show that he's the real deal and that he's a legit prospect in the Bellator division, lightweight division. So it's gonna be interesting to see where he goes from there. A lot more eyes are going to be on Aviv Gonzalez, especially with the consecutive submission wins that he's had, especially in the first round to get these submissions off, especially to be able to pull guard. I was talking to Elijah earlier, and the only person I can think of that currently that is at this level of high level jiu-jitsu that is a threat to like is so well known about it is Ryan Hall in the UFC featherweight division. Like, he is somebody that is known for his jiu-jitsu and that people are afraid to fight him because of his jiu-jitsu skills. I think it's going to be the same thing for Aviv Gonzalez, that people are going to be maybe hesitant to take the fight against Aviv Gonzalez. And I think Aviv Gonzalez has potential to be a huge acquisition that Bellator had got for themselves. If they keep pushing him along and slowly move him up the card and slowly, again, because Sean Felton was I think again was a very good matchup for Aviv Gonzalez, especially with the challenge of the range and the striking and the ability of Sean Felton. For him to do what he did to Sean Felton, Aviv Gonzalez is somebody that should be a priority for Bellator going forward. Like, he is somebody that may need to go up in the main card and be pushed in that light as somebody that is a legit, not only a prospect, but is, again, I think I spoke about this with Keith Lee, when Keith Lee was on had a 2-fight win streak in Bellator. Somebody that is legit a priority and somebody that should be pushed as a future star in the division and for Bellator and in that lightweight division again. But yeah, that's it for Gonzalez. For Sean Felton, man, and this is just a personal note. I did text him today, and I told him, and it's not honest truth. I'll share this because I think it's I told Sean that for him to come off a long layoff, a year layoff, to fight a guy that is a huge prospect, that is, somebody that they're pushing, is the jiu-jitsu ace. For him to come back and fight this guy, for him to make his Bellator debut, 30 years old and fighting the King of the Cage and stuff like that, for the amount of support that Sean Felton had gotten from his family, from his friends that I've seen, that I like, that blew my mind, was just the love and support that he's gotten. And I just love that he's so well received and somebody that has so many people behind him and that believe in him. I said that was a win in itself, that you had that amount of support. This is only a small bump in the road. I said that the next fight, like, compared to this fight with Aviv Gonzalez, a lot more people are going to be looking at you and looking at what you do next and how you rebound. Not only fans, but also promoters, also Bellator, also UFC, also PFL. Like, a lot of people are going to be looking at how you rebound and what you do next. So even though you lost your Bellator debut, there's going to be a whole lot more eyes on you and seeing what you do next and how you handle that. And you're going to have, which was been seen in this fight, a ton of support from your fans, from your friends, from your peers. So keep your head up, and they don't stop. It just keeps going. The grind never stops. So that was my thoughts on the Sean Felton thing. Again, and he also got caught. Like, Aviv Gonzalez pulled guard and then locked in the heel hook, and just like that. So and I thought he did good for just coming back off a year layoff and able to get off the ground, stuff a takedown, but then pulling guard and getting a heel hook that quick. Man, again, hats off to Gonzalez, but it's on to the next one. And hopefully we'll still play Madden. Anything else on the card I thought was interesting? Hannah Guy defeating Valerie Loretta at 125. Valerie Loretta, I thought did good in the first round. She dropped Hannah Guy. But as the fight got on, the grappling of Hannah Guy and the submission abilities of Hannah Guy became overwhelming. I actually thought in the second round, in between the second and third round, Valerie Loretta's cornerman got on her for throwing a spinning back fist. But I thought that spinning back fist hurt Hannah Guy. If you go back and watch that fight, after Valerie Loretta, on the ground, she was great. Got a triangle position, was landing from mount, controlling everything like that. But she was able to get out of that. And when the fight got back to the feet in the end of the second round, Hannah Guy stunned her with a spinning back fist. And if she would have capitalized on that, she probably would have stole that round or maybe even finished Hannah Guy, because she was rocked. But she didn't capitalize on it, and that's something that she'll probably look back in the tapes and look at. But the cornerman was saying, stop doing spinning back fists and stuff like that. I thought honestly, if she would have capitalized on that moment, she probably could have either won that round, or she probably could have knocked out Hannah Guy, because Hannah Guy was wobbly. I also thought Hannah Guy, like she overextended herself a little bit and left herself open for some strikes from Valerie Loretta. But Hannah Guy's tough. Was able to use her grappling to seal the win, and now she moves on and defeats Valerie Loretta, which I thought was good. And what else on this card? Okay, there was two. No. So Viva Gonzalez, I've talked about that fight, and Sean Felton talked about that. There were 3 fighters, actually, that I was really, really impressed with. I'll start with number 1. Austin Vanderford versus Fabian Edwards. I was very impressed with Austin Vanderford. I thought his ability to mix in his striking with his grappling was really, really done well. He was able to control Fabian Edwards and pretty much overwhelm Fabian Edwards for the most part. Did get cut by the end of the third round with a huge gash on his head, but by then the fight was already leaning towards Austin Vanderford. I loved his mixing of strikings with his grappling. It was almost seamless in how he did it, and he gives Fabian Edwards a loss here. And I think for Austin Vanderford, who is ranked, let me see here, bantamweight, featherweight. Where's Austin Vanderford at? Austin Vanderford is ranked 3rd in the middleweight division. Gegard Mousasi is the champion. It'll be interesting to see who Gegard Mousasi faces next. I would think that Austin Vanderford at undefeated would be probably the suitable challenger next for Gegard Mousasi. I would think. Gegard Mousasi last defeated Douglas Lima. When was that? How long has Gegard Mousasi been out? Let me see here. Gegard Mousasi is also 35, be 36 in August. Bellator 250, October 29, 2020. So he hasn't fought since October 29, 2020. I'd be interested to see who Gegard Mousasi faces next. I would think Austin Vanderford would be a likely option, being undefeated, being 11-0, being a possible challenge to Gegard Mousasi. Again, great showing from him defeating Fabian Edwards yesterday. I loved his style of mixing in his grappling with his striking with his grappling almost seamlessly. I am sweating like a motherfucker right now. Jesus. That's one of the issues of being bald, is the fact that you sweat a fucking lot. Excuse my language. But yeah, I think Austin Vanderford is likely the next challenger for Gekko Mousasi. Again, very good showing from him. Another fighter that I was impressed with was Grant Neal defeating Tyree Fortune by rear naked choke in the first round. Like to see where he goes from there. And another fighter as well was Devion Franklin defeating Tyler King in the prelims by knockout. I was really impressed with his athleticism and his power too. Like he knocked out Tyler King, and the thing about it was grazing shots. It wasn't even like it was flush. He was hitting them flush. They were all like to the top of the forehead, just barely touching the forehead a little bit. But that was enough power to stagger Tyler King and to get him out of that. He even threw a flying knee at one point. Like he was very, very athletic for a big man, and I'm anxious to see where he goes from there. Again, his power was something that caught my eye, just barely grazing somebody and being able to stun him and hurt him and knock him out. And his athleticism is something that's fun to behold too. So I thought had a great show that night as well. Ultimately, if I'm getting grades into the viewer watching, if you tell me your thoughts on Bellator 259 as well, ultimately, I thought this was a solid B+ card. A solid B+ card. I had some action in there, had some competitive fights. There's a lot of prospects in this card that you could look at as the future of Bellator or people to look out for, and that could put them with some exciting fights against top challengers in their respective divisions. And yeah, I think it was a solid night of fights. And I've so far, just speaking of Bellator as a whole, I am loving the Bellator move to Showtime. It seems like such a natural fit. The production has gone up. The broadcasting is natural. Having Big John McCarthy and Mauro Ranallo together. Josh Thompson, I'm blanking on her name, but she also does really, really well as a broadcast announcer. And I think the team that they put together, the production value, just the fit itself, Bellator with Showtime, mixing in boxing promotions with the broadcasters makes it feel more big time. Again, being on Showtime, being on primetime television makes it feel big time. Mauro Ranallo doing the calls seems like a natural fit of being on Showtime. Even like the little things, right? So last night they did in between the main event, they did a short talk of, I believe his name is Jake Paul. Logan Paul defeated Ben Askren. Jake Paul is fighting for Mayweather. So they did a promotion for Mayweather and Jake Paul, in which Mauro Ranallo was interviewing him, and because Dylan Dennis is on with Bellator, they talked about Dylan Dennis and him possibly crossing over to MMA and fighting for Bellator. And I just think the interweaving of, hey, we have one of the hottest names in combat sports being the Paul brothers, Jake Paul, Logan Paul, who's fighting Mayweather on Showtime in, I believe, 2 weeks. And now we could cross promote and have him potentially talk about being in Bellator and fighting for Bellator and possibly fighting fighters in Bellator and possibly fighting MMA. Like having that association, having that ability to cross promote and to, get more eyes on your product is such a, again, the Showtime and Bellator collaboration it was a great move. And I'm interested to see how things play out going forward. Will Jake Paul or Logan Paul come to Bellator? Remains to be seen. Scott Coker seems to be more open about it. You have Dylan Dennis there, who's Conor McGregor's affiliate, so they could pull that together. So yeah, I'm going to see what goes from there and the little seeds they planted. But overall, yeah, it was a solid B+ card. I enjoyed the show. A lot of prospects you could look out for. Cyborg's dominance is something to behold. But again, we'll see what happens from there. And yeah, I thought production, announcers, the calls and the fight, I thought all were done well. So yeah, that's my grade for Bellator last night. It was a really, really solid show. Yeah, so this was part 1 of the MMA Renegade podcast, episode 7. think I said episode 6, episode 7. Sorry. And I will be back later today after the Rob Font versus Garbrandt fight and recap that tonight. So right after Garbrandt versus Cody Garbrandt versus Rob Font event goes off, I'll be back on here to recap that as well. You give your feedbacks, your thoughts on the event itself. If you have thoughts on the Bellator event, you could chime in with me in that part 2 of the episode tonight, and we could all talk about that together. All right, so that is all for Bellator 259. Again, we'll be back hopefully maybe by 9 o'clock. I think the event starts at 7. Maybe 9 o'clock or 9:30 to discuss Garbrandt versus Rob Font, which I have my predictions of that. We'll see if it comes true, and you'll be able to join me. All right, so signing off for right now. We'll be back in a couple of hours to discuss the UFC event, and we'll see how it fares against the Bellator. So signing off for now. My name is Tyriece, and this has been MMA Renegade episode 7, part 1.